All right, here we go. Wednesday, May 13th. This may or may not be the last lesson I'm recording. I'm not fully positive on what the district is planning on doing from here. I had read that the next week would be a reflective week, maybe something with writing. So if that's the case, do know that I miss y'all and definitely got shorted this year with time spent with you guys. I was really enjoying the year, so to have that taken away was a disappointment, to say the least. But I'm glad we were able to make the most of it that we could. Today we're going to be looking at units of time, and we're going to be converting it, so it's going to be very similar to what we've been doing with all of our other conversions. I do have a table for you to look at. You can also find that table if you have your book handy. It's going to be on page 623. I'll also have it showing, though, for you in the video if you want to pause it and copy it down. A lot of it is stuff you probably already know, so this might just be more of a reminder. Same thing applies when we're going from a larger unit to a smaller. You're going to still be multiplying, and when we're going from smaller units to larger, you're still going to be dividing. So that same rule that I told you about when we started this, it applies all the way through, no matter what unit we're using. So we'll take a look at that and get started. Today I have an all-encompassing joke for you with Mother's Day. Well, I guess Mother's Day, now I'm really confused. Mother's Day might have passed by the time you're doing this, but Mother's Day hasn't happened yet when I'm recording it. I should probably order my wife something. Yeah. Oh, so for my own mother, I have gone out and done some shopping for her. I went out and bought her a brand new set of beads for her abacus. It's the little things that count. All right, as I promised, we are converting time, and here is the table if you want to pause and write those down, or at least write down if there's any of those that you aren't constantly familiar with. And here's your reminder when you're going from a big unit to a smaller unit. So for example, if I'm going from like hours to minutes, hours is a larger unit than minutes, so I would have to multiply. If I was instead going from minutes to, say, hours, I would then need to use division. So our first problem, you can see we're going from minutes to hours, minutes being a smaller unit than hours. So we're going from a small to a big, so we need to divide. And we want to divide by whatever the relationship of minutes to hours is. So we'll go over here, and I can see there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So we're going to divide 540 by 60. Now that I have my division problem set up, you might remember that, notice how this ends in a 0 and this ends in a 0? I can divide both those numbers by 10, which would eliminate the 0 on both of them, and I would not affect the outcome or the answer that I'm going to get, and it makes it an easier division problem. If there were 2 zeros here and there were 2 zeros here, I could cross off 2 there. However, if let's say there were 2 zeros here and just 1 here, then I could only cross off 1 0 here and 1 0 there. Hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to make this become a little easier problem by dividing that by 10, which makes it 54. And I'm also going to reduce this by dividing it by 10, which makes it 6. And now I can just think 6 times what number gives me 54? We know that's 9. So in 540 minutes, that's equivalent to 9 hours. All right, now as we look at number 2 on page 625, we're changing up the scenario. Now we're going from days to hours. A day is a larger unit than an hour, so we're going from a large to a small. And when we're going from a large to a small, that means we want to multiply. We're going to multiply by whatever the relationship is between days and hours. So we come over here, and I can see that 1 day is equal to 24 hours. So if I have 8 days, that's 8 groups of 24. So I went ahead and set that up. I did 24 hours times 8 days. 8 times 4 was 32. And 8 times 2 was 16, 17, 18, 19. Let me place it down there. For 192 hours. Let's look at number 3. All right, for this one we have 110 hours, and we're going to convert it to days. And we can see there's this second blank hours. Since we're going from a smaller unit hour, hours are smaller than days, we're going from a small to a large. We know we're going to divide. We want to divide by the relationship between hours and days. There are 24 hours in a day, so I'm taking those 110 hours and dividing it by 24. Now, if you think about it, you're probably thinking, oh, 24 is probably going to go into there 4, maybe 5 times. If we give 5 a shot, we're going to just overshoot it a little bit. 5 times 24 is going to be 120. But if I do 24 times 4, I'm going to get 96. So that's as close as we can get. So it's going to go 4 times, which is 96. Move it so you can see. And then we're going to do a little bit of subtraction. We could do it in our head, but I'll just pretend and do some borrowing for you. So I had to borrow because I couldn't take the 6 from the 0. 10 take away 6 will be 4. So I'm left with 0 here. I can't take 9 away from 0. So I'm going to have to go borrow from its neighbor and give it back. 10 take away 9 is 1. So that tells me that 110 hours is equivalent to 4 days. And you see how we go to remainder? This remainder is 14 hours. It's not enough to make a full day. So it's just the remainder bit. So 110 hours is the same thing as 4 full days and 14 more hours. And we'll wrap this up with an elapsed time problem. So just let's assume, let's give this some context. Let's say at 9:17 you started running and you ran for 5 hours and 18 minutes. What time will it be when you're finished running? Now, when we're doing these problems, I want to encourage you to remember that when you're adding these things together, remember hours are based on 60 minutes. So if we go over 60, we're going to need to remember that that's going to bring us into the next hour. I see here, though, that we have 18 minutes and 17 minutes, so we're not going to go over 60, so we're not going to have to worry about adding another hour at the end. But just be aware of that when you're doing these. When I'm doing these problems, I like to get at my start time and then add the hours to it first. And it's okay if you want to use your fingers, so I'll just go 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So I'm at 2 p.m., or I'm actually at 2:17 p.m. I should have been including that the whole time. Let me try that again. So it's 10:17, 11:17, 12:17, 1:17, 2:17. And now we're at 2:17, and all we need to do is add those 18 minutes to it. So if we're at 2:17, and I'm going to add 18 minutes, I'm at 2:35. And remember, we started at a.m., but we did cross over noon, so that's going to be 2:35 p.m. All right, guys, if this is your last lesson, I hope it goes really well. And I hope to see you all soon. The one good thing is most of you will still be seeing Rome in the halls next year, so come by, say hello. I notice I still have some of your earbuds hanging on my wall, and I still had a few like loose basketballs and things like that that need claiming. So come by, grab your stuff, say hello. See you guys.